Hello, welcome back to the Football Terrace. It's the Champions League quarter-final and semi-final draws. I want to say a big thank you to all the nice messages I received yesterday. Had a little bit of I wouldn't call it a health scare so much, but came down really ill last night, so I couldn't do the match reactions. Bad temperature, cold, flu-like symptoms, huge migraine, but still feeling a little bit under the weather with a bit of a temperature and really bad cold, flu-like symptoms, but feeling a lot better than I did. So I want to thank everybody that sent me such lovely messages. Feeling a bit dizzy as well, but that's to be expected. But we're here, Champions League quarter-final draw, road to the final. Who? You look at the teams remaining in it. Who will Arsenal get? Who will Real Madrid get? Who will Manchester City get? Who are the dark horses in this tournament with really and truly European powerhouses and some really exciting teams in there, the likes of Paris Saint-Germain, Dortmund through to another quarter-final. Ati, who did themselves proud the other night. Obviously, Arsenal, first time in the quarter-finals for the best part of a decade and a half. And who will add their name to this list of Champions League heritage this year? Who is going to do it? Will it be Arsenal for the first time? Will Man City add another one? Will Real Madrid get further in front of every other team that's vying for European success and glory? I want to get your views. I want to get your opinions on this. I want to know your stance on this as well. Very intrigued to know what you think, what you feel, etc., etc., etc. But I feel like it's an interesting year for the Champions League because there's a lot of talk that this isn't Champions League isn't as strong as normal. That's the rhetoric. That's the story. That's what a lot of people are stating, that, Real Madrid and Man City are a very high level, but this is one of the worst Bayern Munich teams in a long time. This is one of the worst, one of the worst not Real Madrid teams, one of the worst Barcelona teams. PSG always flop at the final hurdle. Ati are good, but they're nowhere near their brilliant best as an example. I really want to gauge what you think and feel about that. I really want to understand what you feel and what you think and what you feel in relation to that, because does that open a door for the likes of an Arsenal to win their first ever one, the likes of a Dortmund to pick up their first since the 90s. So I'm just adding some tags to this and sending the link out for people that may want to come onto the show. I'm doing that while I'm talking. So I'm a little bit behind today because yesterday was a madness of a day. Also, remember, we are sponsored today by our friends at Match Bingo. So go and get that downloaded now if you haven't done so already. Honestly, it's one of the best games in the world. You'll love that game during football matches. It gives you a whole different dimension to watching football. It's fun and it's innovative. I want to go to some of your comments here. Cheers, Dragsball Steve. I appreciate that. No Chelsea or Liverpool in it. No, yeah, we know that, mate. Sometimes some of you guys write some really weird things. We know that. We know. We know they're not in it. But what are you saying? Sometimes I love you all, but sometimes you say things without saying anything. Are you saying it's a worse competition without them? Talk to me. Let me know what you think and let me know what you feel. I'm a little confused by it. I'm a little confused. Bradley here says Arsenal quarterfinals versus Barca, semis versus Bayern. Arsenal's last 5 Champions League campaigns, those two teams have knocked them out 4 times, then meet Real Madrid or City in the final at Wembley. Look, I think Arsenal can beat Barca. I don't think Barca are a good team, but I don't look at them as a formidable team. Heritage or not. Bayern, they've got some serious players. Harry Kane being one of them, Musiala, Kimmich, loads. So many. You can't even name them. Well, you can name them all, but you get my drift. But Thomas Tuchel is like this equalizing factor because he doesn't have them playing the very best football in the world. I think that would be a good route for Arsenal. I think Arsenal want to go. I think for Arsenal, going up against teams that are going to open up a little bit, going up against teams that are going to attack, I personally think that's the best bet. I think that will put Arsenal in the best spaces possible to be able to progress. I think, again, Man City is dangerous because they're the best team in the world. Real Madrid, one of the best teams in the world, and the quality they've got. I think an Atletico is difficult for Arsenal because there's shithousery. They're sitting behind the ball and make it hard to break you down. It'll be like playing Porto, but with much better players and a better manager. So, Yeah, I think more attacking teams will be good for Arsenal personally, but anyone you get in this next round, it's going to be very, very difficult to play against indeed. Madrid walk in the park versus Arsenal. So again, I'm gonna defend Arsenal slightly here and say Real Madrid will be the favourites, absolutely. But a walk in the park would suggest winning by a 3 or 4 goal margin. I don't see this Arsenal team getting beat by anybody by a 3 or 4 goal margin, as we've seen done in the past. So I would have to politely disagree with that. I think that Real Madrid are the favourites and would more likely than not be the victors over 2 legs. But to suggest that it would be a walk in the park, I think that's a little bit too far personally. A little bit too far personally. Terry, how likely do you think City can go back to back? There's a genuine possibility of this happening. 110%, a genuine bona fide possibility of this happening. I don't think you can get away from that. Genuinely, it's they are Man City. Yes, there's some flaws in the team this year because the players that left have not been replaced by the same level of quality. But this Manchester City team are an absolute powerhouse. And when you have a group of players assembled by the best manager in the world, with their winning mentality, with a goal scorer like Haaland, with a defense that's they concede some counterattacks, but they still don't concede crazy goals, with a world-class goalkeeper, a solid midfielder like Rodri, there's absolutely every chance that you do it. There's absolutely every single chance that they could do it back to back. Without a shadow of a doubt, that could happen. When you, I was looking at this list earlier of teams, and you look at it and you think of teams that have actually done it back to back. See, Real Madrid did it a lot in the early days, as you can see here. I'm just looking for that again. I want that in big in front of me. 1 second. Where's it gone? Why can't I see it? There it is. So I can see it in big. Real Madrid did it in the 50s, which is always a shame that the Munich air disaster happened, because I think Man United would have given a run for their money in that era. And then Ajax in the 70s. You had Bayern Munich in the 70s, Liverpool in the 70s. People forget Forest in the 70s and 80s did it back to back. You've had it done once by AC Milan. But after AC Milan did it in 1989 and 1990, it wasn't then done again until Real Madrid's three-peat. It's become far more difficult to do in the modern day era of the competition. It's essentially been done once since the new Champions League format has been in place. So that's what goes against Man City is history, that only Real Madrid have done it in the modern day era of the competition. Back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, that you had to be champions to get into it. There was less teams in it. So I'm not saying that it was easier to win back in those days, but sometimes I think in the early days there was only like 8 teams in it, and it went straight from knockouts as an example. So it was a very different competition back then as it is to now. So they definitely can do it. There is no shadow of a doubt that they can do it, and they are my favorites. So yeah, really, really good question. I want PSG, Barca, or Madrid is what Halftime Hooks has got to say here. I like that. I like that. Big up to you, Luke Skywalker. I appreciate it. Strasbourg Steve says, give me Borussia Dortmund versus Bayern Munich. Yeah, I'd love to see that game. I'd love to see that game as well. That would be a real entertaining one. I completely and utterly agree with you on that. Really good one. This here from Alex, who's an Arsenal fan, says, Madrid, in my opinion, has a 60 to 70% chance of beating Arsenal. Our defense is the area I'm most confident about. Teams are struggling to score goals against us, and we saw that all season long. And that's very true. And it's, I've seen a lot. This is why it's Arsenal are an interesting one in this, because they, obviously when you look at the teams that are remaining in it, and I'll put the graphic up to really bring that to life. You've got City that are the best team in the world. They're defending champions. You've got the heritage of your Real Madrids, your Bayern Munichs, your Barcelonas in it. Then though, Dortmund do have heritage, but Dortmund, in my opinion, on paper are the worst team remaining in it. But it's still a very good team. You then have Atletico that are experienced, but they haven't won it. So people talk about heritage. They haven't ever won it themselves, as an example. And then you've got PSG. And PSG is such an interesting one, because when you've got Kylian Mbappe, there's always, every game you play, there's a chance you win because he's in your team. It's as simple and as straightforward as that. However, what I will state is that their lack of ability to get over the line in this competition has to also have a big question mark over it. So it's such an intriguing year because you've got two teams with huge heritage, but they're not the best two teams in the tournament. Man City are, but very few teams in the modern day era go back to back. And then you have a plethora of other teams who very good football, some of them very experienced in the Champions League, but none of them with any great Champions League heritage. And I know that Dortmund have won it, but that was a very, very long time ago. Okay. And yes, they got to a final, about a decade or so ago, but they haven't done that since. So I think it's going to be in very, very intriguing quarterfinals and semi-finals. And we could end up with a real, not shock so much, but what would be really nice is to end up in a final with Arsenal Atletico as an example, PSG Atletico, PSG Arsenal. I'd quite like to see a new team added to the mix. I really would, because a genuine history. Equally, I don't want to see City do it back to back, because then again, my reason for that is very selfish. Because I don't want City, when I start looking at these numbers, I don't want City getting their second, because then they're one behind Man United. I don't want Real Madrid or Bayern Munich. Even to a degree, Dortmund adding additionals, because they either close the gap on Man United or pull further away from us. So I suppose when it comes to who I want to win things, I'm very calculated. And I'm calculated in the sense of I want what's best for my club. And Arsenal having won Champions League, or Ati having won, or PSG having won, that sits much better with me than Man City suddenly being one behind us. One more Champions League victory and they equal us. It's like with Chelsea not being in it. I take that as there's huge comfort for me that they're not in it anymore because they're one behind us. And one good Champions League run and a win suddenly equal a number of Champions Leagues, and I personally don't want to see that. But maybe that's just me. We've got Matt with us now on the show, who's going to join us for part of this draw. Hello, mate. How are you feeling about this today?
I just don't want a team that plays like Porto, because we do struggle against that. And I think we've got, and I'm not saying this with cockiness, but we do have more of a chance of beating a team like Real Madrid or Man City than a team like Atletico Madrid, because we can play the football that we want and that our players know. Whereas if we play a team like Porto, I think we're going to struggle, and I think we're going to have to grind out maybe a 0-0 away, like we did, or we tried to against Porto. And then, play them at the Emirates and then try and beat them that way. Whereas I think with a team like Real Madrid or Manchester City, we can give them a game pretty much. We can give them a really good game, and it will be a really good game to watch, pretty much.
Yeah, look, I think that where's your chest, Matt, is what Samuel's got to say.
Yeah. Bro, yeah, I think we can go far in the Champions League if we get luck on our side.
I think you always need a little bit of luck in this tournament. Sometimes, like last year, City just steamrolled pretty much everybody they went up against, as an example. But if you look at most Champions League, just look at most teams that have won the Champions League as an example, and go through their run, and then go back and watch those games. There's a lot of, you think about Porto when they did their famous run in 2004 when they won it. If it hadn't been for poor refereeing, that Man United would have knocked them out, and the rest would be history. And I don't know if you could create, I suppose AI could create something like this now. I'd love to see an AI creation of the future of Porto and Jose Mourinho had VAR been in existence back then, and Man United would have gone through and Porto would have gone out. Would he have got the Chelsea job? Would he have done a treble at Inter Milan however many years later? Because sometimes it's striking when the iron is hot. But most teams that win a Champions League, at somewhere along the line, they get a little bit lucky. And whether it be that it was in a season where the VAR was in, whether it's, you look at Spurs when they got to the final, they deserved to go through with that fantastic comeback. But Ajax should have seen that game through. The comeback from Liverpool when they went on to win it, it was mesmerizing. And I remember watching it. I was in a hotel room in Manchester at the time, and I was shell-shocked by how good it was. But at the same time as being sort of shell-shocked by how good it was, Barcelona should never have thrown away that big lead that they had. There is an element of fortune that goes into that as well. So I think you always need it. I think what I do find interesting about your club, Arsenal, is how people will sit there and say, no heritage, you're the 6th or 7th or 8th best team remaining in it, but also want to paint the narrative that you're going to be failures if you go out at this point as well, which I think, again, is a little bit of a stretch, if I'm being honest with you.
I mean, it's just like Arsenal fans can't win. We can never win in both arguments. Like, we will never win because we've either got to be the best at something, but then, oh, wait, if you don't win, you've bottled it. And it's like, we just can't win whatever outcome happens.
No, exactly. And I think that's why I'm just getting a better view than the other three. Yeah, that sits better. Yeah, I agree. And you know me, I try to be as fair as possible. And I sort of look at it and I just think they're either got a good chance of going through because they should be going through, or there's very little chance to go through. Strasbourg, Steve, I know you said earlier when you sort of super chatted that you put in that you want Dortmund versus Bayern Munich. Why do you want that draw?
I'm on mute. I was on mute. I just like the domestics, and also because obviously Dortmund Bayern, that's going to be playing soon, and I want to see Arsenal Man City as well because that would just be complete chaos. I was watching I think I was watching a City channel the other day, and they said they wouldn't want that draw because of the emotion, not only of the Champions League, but also obviously they play each other the next time they meet in the Premier League. So it'd be a very emotional, chaotic matchup. And Man City, their fans, some of the fans are saying like, "Oh, we don't want that. We don't want that emotion," and they don't have a great record against English teams either. City. Spurs knocked them out. Liverpool did a few years ago as well. So it's interesting. But I kind of want to see that just for the chaos. And then same thing with I'd love to see Atletico Real Madrid. I'd love to see that. That's one of my favorite games to watch personally, that derby. It's absolutely phenomenal. So I'd like to see that. In terms of, because I know what everyone's going to ask me, you like Bayern? Yes. And then the next question is going to be, do you want Arsenal because of the good history? Not really. Not at this moment. No. Like an 8-1 win against Mainz is not going to convince me that turned a corner. You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't be, again, and I say this a lot, it's all about where is the second leg? Is it at my ground or theirs? For me, that makes a difference. If Atletico Madrid are hosting the second leg against Real Madrid, I'd probably favor Atleti. But if it was Real Madrid at the Bernabeu, I might go with them. So I think that's a big, big part of it.
And another thing, right? I don't think Bayern Munich would like to play or draw Arsenal because I've read, I mean, I hope this is true. I've read that the Bayern Munich fans won't be able to go to the leg at the Emirates Stadium, but I don't actually know why.
Because during the Lazio game, you know how like the European fans got fireworks and flares and all that crazy stuff? Oh. Yeah, they got UEFA is strict about that. So
oh wow, okay.
So, yeah, they got charged with. We got charged. We got a charge. So, but yeah, no, Bayern fans won't be allowed in the second leg. Yep.
Okay, there we go. I mean, and that plays a really that plays a really big part.
Yeah.
Not having fans in the stadium for that period is going to play a huge part. We're joined by CB today, who had an amazing debut last night on the Top 6 show. Viralness everywhere. Obviously, I know you don't have a team in this as a Chelsea fan, but what draws would you like to see in this next round? Who would you like to see certain teams get?
As a neutral, I really want to see Barcelona, Arsenal, just because their playing styles are very similar. I feel like they're kind of on the same trajectory in terms of Xavi and Arteta both being young coaches, former players, their style of play. They both had very good domestic campaigns. Obviously, Barcelona won the title last year. Arsenal top of the table now. I feel like it complements each other well. I would love to see Bayern and Real Madrid because I feel like Tuchel and Ancelotti have had some real good battles in the past. Even the Chelsea draws that they've had with us, the comeback where Mendy let us down in the first leg and then we came back, was 3-0 up at the Bernabeu, and then, a moment of we switched up for literally a second and we suffered. So I feel like Tuchel at the Bernabeu would be something. I'm just trying to think. Atletico, You guys were mentioning Atletico Real. I feel like I've seen that tie a lot, and the way Real and Atletico's rivalry works, I think Real will always get the better of them. They're the big bros, so I kind of want. Actually, I want to see Atletico versus Manchester City. Seeing Pep coming against Simeone. You know, Simeone's got a fantastic home record, especially if the second leg is at home. At the Metropolitan, that would be insane. I don't know where that could go, especially just seeing the dark arts that Simeone done to Liverpool, Klopp's Liverpool team, especially during that Champions League run was the same year that Liverpool would walk in the league, and they just got dominated at Anfield by Simeone. So just seeing Pep and Simeone come against each other would be something. And then Dortmund, PSG. I want PSG to kind of make the latter rounds. I am actually rooting for PSG for this Champions League because I want Mbappe to just go with a bang. I would hate for him to leave without completing the mission that he set out the whole of Paris really wants him to do.
Yeah, look, I think there's some real good ones in there. As an example, I would kind of like to see like what you've alluded to, and it's again, I don't want City winning it, and City fans will think it's because they'll say, "Oh, because you've got an agenda against us." I do have an agenda against you. You're the second biggest rival to my football club. You have the chance to win 2 on the bounce, which is something my club hasn't done. You have the chance to go 1 Champions League behind us, which worries the living daylights out of me with where my club is versus where your club is. So, of course, I have an agenda against Manchester City because I know, like I say this about Arsenal a lot, but City have been scaring the living daylights out of me for a long time because they're one of the best teams in the world. They are dangerous. And if they keep winning these trophies, as much as one thing I don't subscribe to when it comes to Man City is this idea that they don't really have a legacy. Like Chelsea, they're creating one.
Yeah.
And they suddenly have another Champions League. They do a back-to-back Champions League. Suddenly, they haven't got as many as Liverpool, but they're the second English team ever to go back-to-back. Heaven forbid they win the Premier League and Champions League together. And it isn't just back-to-back. It's back. You got a treble back-to-back with a Premier League, Champions League double in that way. Maybe even a goddamn back-to-back treble. I don't want City doing that. They do back-to-back trebles, and that puts them into a different stratosphere of legendary status. So again, I listened to Spurs fans last night that were like anything for Liverpool or City to win the league, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I get it from your point of view because Arsenal are your biggest rivals, but you also have to weigh this up. And as much as people don't like me back in Arsenal, it's not because I love them, you know, it's not because of friends of mine that are gooners, etc. It's because it's the best of a bad situation. Ideally, I don't want any of the English teams winning it. I want a PSG or an Atletico to win it because then they only have 1 Champions League. It doesn't get anywhere near my club's heritage as of yet. I'm selfish like that. Every result I want to happen on a football pitch is for the betterment or preservation of my football club. That's how I was brought up to view football. And that's the bit that I find staggering nowadays is that most football fans is about petty online banter as opposed to what's best for your football club. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong when I say that, but that's how it comes across to me.
Spot on. You literally, because if Manchester City win the league now, we're both, you could argue, sports washing oil projects, oil clubs, you know what I mean? They've eclipsed us in terms of Premier League titles. We are 5, they're on 6 now. We both got a Champions League. We got 2 Champions League and luckily beat them in the final. But if they get a second one, they have a very strong case of saying they're a bigger club than us. And it doesn't look like they're stopping anytime soon as well as that. So that threatens me, especially with Arsenal. The last thing I want for them is to win the league and they can start running around saying London is red. So,
mate, you're absolutely right when you say that. And this is the thing with Man City. I think they've already got more trophies than Chelsea. The last time I checked, I think they've got more trophies than you now. If they suddenly match Chelsea, they've got more league titles. They have as many Champions Leagues. They're maybe not bigger in terms of fan base, but in terms of legacy and what they've won, they've surpassed you. You know, there'll be one, and listen, and the trajectory they're going in, so they're looking like they might close in on, you know, if it doesn't slow down, even Liverpool fans that may not feel this, so Liverpool got 6, right, or 5? 6.
Oh, 6.
6. You know, suddenly they get a second, they get a third, suddenly they're only a handful behind, and these things come up on you quick. Winter Surfer's joined us today as well. Winter, what are there any particular draws you would like to see, my bro?
Both English teams get the most difficult. That's all I care. Whether I'm in it or not, that's all I care. I'm not for this whole back the British teams. I couldn't care less. about another. So whatever draw they get, because we're going to see the pathway through to the final today as well, not just the quarterfinal draw. So you're going to see that as well. So you're going to see who you could potentially get in the semi-final and the final as well. We look at last year when Man City were on the harder side of the draw, and Inter Milan got the easier side. So we're going to see that. But yeah, I think as long as both teams get. The thing about saying difficult draw for City is probably pie in the sky because they're favourites nearly for every game. So there's no real point of getting a difficult. See, even with like Real Madrid, you could see them bypassing Real Madrid. But no, it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah,
I think you're a Chelsea fan, right?
Yeah, you know I am, Matt. Don't even try that. We're in a group chat.
I didn't even know that. I did not know that.
Yeah, but yeah. No, I think the thing about someone said about teams in the same country facing each other. I think it's the only time you bring league form into a Champions League tie is when it's two from the same country facing each other.
Yeah,
because we've seen it with Arsenal over Porto. Their league form and their Champions League form is just not the same when they're facing different teams. And if I were Arsenal, the one team I would want to avoid is Atletico Madrid. I would want to avoid Atletico Madrid at all costs. Especially if they weren't to beat them in the home leg, and having to go to that place is insane. Even with the football they played at Inter, that atmosphere was brutal, and brutal in a big positive way for.
Sorry,
Atletico Madrid, and they're just the masters at shithouse. He's just sensational. So that's the. If I were Arsenal, I'd want Dortmund.
Yeah, I think Dortmund.
Again,
yeah. I think Dortmund
again,
is great.
What I would say about Dortmund, though, and I'm gonna go back into Newcastle mode. Yeah, when that draw was made, Newcastle, Paris Saint-Germain, Milan, and Dortmund. Out of the panel here, how many of you guys picked Dortmund to finish top? I didn't.
No, not to finish top. Not to finish
That's
top.
what I'm saying.
That's true.
Like some people even had Newcastle finishing above Dortmund.
I didn't have them getting out of their group.
There you go.
Yeah.
And
So I wouldn't.
So
I think when you look at all the teams that are left, no one's being written off. I don't think anyone's like. I don't think there's any easy draws in this. And so everyone you get is of a high caliber. I think that's true. But if you're Arsenal, you'd much rather get Dortmund than Real Madrid. You'd much rather get Dortmund than Bayern Munich. You'd much rather get them probably than PSG as an example. So yeah, I'm intrigued. What you said earlier about Man City versus Madrid, I wouldn't mind that in this round. Because last season,
which Madrid?
Real Madrid. When I say Real Madrid, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's like Atty in it. I'd never call
it.
It's like
It's like Man United. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. There's only one United, and that's Man United. Everybody else is Newcastle, West Ham. Yeah. That's the way I view it. As wrong as that probably is. But last season, and I would love City to get this route now. I'd love them to get Real Madrid followed by Bayern Munich, or Bayern Munich followed by Real Madrid. And the reason I say that is because last season they beat both those teams, but they beat Bayern Munich without a prolific goal scorer in the team. And if there was a prolific goal scorer at Bayern Munich last year, that first leg, in my opinion, would have been different because they had ample chances. They just didn't have somebody of Kane's level to finish it. When they played Real Madrid, it was just a lot less legs in that Madrid team last year compared to this year. They seem a much faster and much quicker team, especially with the introduction of Jude Bellingham. So I'm very intrigued. I would love to, this is purely from a football perspective, with those additional players added to both those teams, and with City losing Gundogan, losing Mahrez, and maybe not quite being as good, I'd quite like to see those two matches again over two legs. And plus, I want City getting the hardest route possible, and that for me is the hardest route for them. But I've got a feeling that City are going to get Dortmund followed by someone like
Barca.
That's who they're going to get. And they cut through both those. In my opinion, they cut through both those teams because those teams like to attack. And Man City will be absolutely rubbing their hands together because it will be like hot knife through butter, I think. Because the one thing you would say is there is no easy games, but City are the best team in this tournament. And if you play into their hands by opening up and attacking, and you're not at their level, they're going to obliterate you, I think. But
I've got a question
go on, mate.
for you, Terry. So if Arsenal do get Manchester City, who do you think wins out of that tie?
Great question. And I'm not going to plead the fifth here, but what I'm going to say is it all depends on what happens in the league meeting.
And
go on, Steve.
Away. Home or away?
Yeah, who's home and away first, but also what happens when you go to the Etihad in a few weeks. If you beat them at the Etihad in a few weeks, I think you knock them out.
To answer your question, I think Arsenal will actually will upset City in the league, in the Champions League, just off the history of Pep's record against domestic sides in the Champions League from his Liverpool capitulation when they got 4-1 in the first leg. I think that was 17-18. And then you look at the Tottenham tied the year after that one, and then 2 years later the Champions League final against us. He actually has a terrible record against domestic sides with Manchester City. So I feel like
I
you
can
can
understand that, but Arteta, like, it's his first time in the Champions League knockouts. Like, it's literally his first time. So I don't know. Honestly,
the only thing that doesn't
Same with
convince me
Terzic at Dortmund. Same with Terzic at Dortmund. Yeah.
Right,
the thing
guys.
that
Just so you know, it is starting now. So the Mikel, Obi-Wan Mikel is putting his hand into the pot for the first name to come out. So we'll take you through this. We'll put some of it up on the screen as it comes out to let you know who it is. He's undoing the little ball now. He's twisting it. This is the first name out.
The temperature.
Checking the temperature to make sure it's the right one. And the first name out of the hat is Arsenal. Arsenal out first. So we're going to find Arsenal's out right now.
Right away.
They'll be at home first. They'll be at home first then, I take it. Yeah? They'll be at home first.
I don't know if it works that way. I don't know if it's this year the first name out. I would assume I don't know actually.
I'd
I
rather
think
be home last.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Well,
don't
goals
know.
don't matter anyway.
Yeah, do you know what I did think that this week, obviously, we had two, and it mad. There's been no penalty shootouts in the Champions League since 2016, and this week we have two days running. So the name's coming out now. He's undoing the box. He's undoing the ball. Who's it going to be for Arsenal in the knockout stages, quarterfinal? First time in 14 years that Arsenal have been here. Chelsea legend. Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich. Arsenal, Bayern, Munich.
You know what? I'm happy about that.
Wow.
There's so many storylines with this one. You could go from the Tuchel stuff. You can go from the Harry Kane going facing Arsenal, also going into the Lazio second leg. Harry Kane only had 2 knockout goals in the Champions League. Obviously, he got a brace with Lazio.
That's a huge draw. That is a huge draw.
It's not Real Madrid.
There we go. Right, the next name is coming out now. The next name is on its way out. Atletico de Madrid has come out the hat here.
Come on,
Nice
City.
band
Come on,
pair.
City.
Oh,
Come on,
please,
City.
please, City.
I want Real Atletico.
No, City. No, City.
I want City to suffer in that.
Yeah, man.
It was really crazy. I remember so many years ago, always looking forward to this draw. My team was always in it, or nearly always in it.
For real.
The last Champions League knockout game you played was Sevilla, or was
Man United haven't won a Champions League knockout game like
Since
tie.
PSG.
It's PSG. In the last decade, we've only won 2.
PSG?
Crazy.
That's when Rashford did the infamous.
Oh, Borussia Dortmund. Borussia Dortmund.
What? I don't mind this. I don't mind this actually.
You know what? I like that because what that means, it means you've got
Real Madrid and City.
You've got Real Madrid and City remaining, and you've got PSG and
Real Madrid.
Real Madrid, City, PSG,
Barcelona.
and Barcelona. I wouldn't mind a little bit of an El Clasico, and then City, and then City, PSG, and then El Clasico with City getting the winner would be good.
No,
Barcelona.
Real Madrid have just come out now. Madrid's name has come out.
It's gonna be Barca.
Please be City. Please be City.
I want City.
Drum roll, drum roll, drum roll.
I'm still on the Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, I'd like this to be City. But they've avoided the easiest 2 teams on paper. Or the easiest 3 probably City. So
yeah.
Manchester City, Real Madrid. Confirmed.
Oh, yes.
Let's go.
Come on.
Let's go.
This is
I
perfect.
favor Real Madrid in that one.
So that's what is that Barcelona PSG then?
Yes.
Does this also show the route, the semi-final as well?
So the semi-finals coming next, and then it's going to do the route. So it would be PSG, Barcelona again. That's such an interesting one because Barca are not the powerhouse they once were. PSG are serial flops in this tournament. One of them bad boys is getting to a semi.
I think PSG beats Barcelona.
I'm taking PSG as well.
Yeah.
Lewandowski used to be that match winner, but
Mbappe away from home as well.
I don't think Barcelona are better this year than they were last year. And the fact that Man United outclassed them over 2 legs, home and away, and we're awful. I know you shouldn't always put stock in that, but I
even
just don't think
Anthony scored against them.
I know.
I understand why you say that because there's not been much progression from when you played them to this season, so it does make sense.
But then you can
PSG are serial chokers.
So you can flip your argument and say that Newcastle outplayed PSG, but absolutely battered them.
That was also our best defensive performance of the season, bar none.
Yeah, that was when I thought after that game, I was like, Newcastle are going to do bits this year. It's just they're falling off massively.
Just imagine this. I don't think this will happen, by the way. I'll say that first. Imagine if PSG win it on Mbappe's song and he rides off in the sunset.
That would be poetic. I would love that.
That would be crazy.
I'd like that because I love Mbappe, and I mean I'm glad he's leaving because this man needs a league legacy. But here we go. Semi-final draws are coming out now. Listen, I want Madrid but City on the same side as Arsenal Barca. That's what I want. I actually think, by the way, Arsenal, you've got a better chance at 2 legs against City than in a one-off final. I really believe that. I know it's at Wembley. You guys love Wembley.
I probably agree with
so the first one out the hat is the winners of quarter-final. His fingers over it. I can't see. So quarter-final.
What is going on with my stream?
Go onto UEFA's website. What UEFA's website?
That's the mistake.
I didn't see what that said because Obi Mikel had his finger. It said quarter-final number, and then it had his finger over it. It looked like number 2, which was Arsenal's, I think. No, Arsenal's number 1. It was the first one out, wasn't it?
Atletico Madrid Dortmund is 2.
His fingers over it again. What's a bell end? I can't see. What a fucking idiot. His fingers over it again.
Okay, so it says winner of quarter-final 2 and quarter-final 4. So that's PSG.
Yes, it's going to be Bayern. Yes.
Oh my God.
If Arsenal get through, they're going to get Real Madrid or Bayern Munich. Jeez.
So same as last year. We got one side hard and the other side isn't hard. So we got that.
You get PSG or Barca winners. And
PSG, they're not. PSG are chokers in this competition.
But you guys can't count out Mbappe away from home. His record is insane, and I really love to see him in England actually ripping things up. He hasn't really had that apart from the Monaco.
It's not Mbappe. It's like Dembele dropping another stinker after stinker like he usually does. It's nothing to do with Mbappe. It's to do with the rest of the team.
You know about this.
Would you back Saka and Martinelli over the Odegaard and those lot over Mbappe, Vitinha, and Marquinhos, Dembele?
In the home leg, I'd back Arsenal in the home leg against PSG. Definitely.
Yeah. So
in a way, they could get a draw.
Yeah. So it'd be Arsenal, Bayern Munich. Again, the one thing about the way that draw is done is it does look like, just looking at the graphics, that for both Arsenal's quarterfinal and semi-final, they're home first and away second. Fuck.
That Bernabeu in the second leg is different. Going to the Bernabeu in the second leg is different.
You know, one thing I'll say, Matt, if you progress past Bayern and then somehow beat either City or Madrid, I think you don't go on to win it because I think you would have enough confidence. You knocked out the big boys to go on and win the competition. You'd also deserve it. You'd also deserve it.
Before I ask Matt's opinion on how he feels about the draw, because right now Matt looks like he's about to have a stroke. I'm going to say this. The 2 times I've witnessed my team win it, our group and our run to the final was probably the hardest we've ever had. The easier routes we've had, we've not gone on to win it. Back in 1999, our group had Bayern Munich and Barcelona in it. And then in our run-in, we had to play Inter, followed by Juve, followed by Bayern Munich again. That was when the Italian teams were the best in the world. When we won it in 1998, again, 2008, our run to that final was ridiculous, including a brilliant Barcelona in the semis as an example, Chelsea in the final. We had a really difficult run. So for Arsenal, sometimes it's the good. I think this is a good draw for Arsenal because they're not the favourites to win it. Now, being knocked out by Bayern Munich and then maybe going into a semi-final with City or Madrid and quote unquote losing that, There's no embarrassment in that. No embarrassment in that whatsoever. But how do you feel about it, Matt? You confident? You worried? Because you look worried.
I'm confident about the Bayern draw because, again, when they come to the Emirates, they're going to have no fans. So as long as we don't get absolutely destroyed at their stadium, I think I'm very confident on that. Heading into the semi-final, if we make it, Jesus, at the Bernabeu potentially in the second leg, I'm not going to enjoy that. But hey, it's going to be such a great match if that happens. Arsenal versus Madrid or Arsenal versus City.
Matt,
that's going to be an interesting semi-final.
Matt, the best part about this, and I said this a few times, either here or elsewhere, is that this will really show what Arsenal are like against top opposition.
It's a big test.
Just like with Newcastle, when I was happy that we got the group of death, it's because I want to see what my guys are made of. I want to see what the manager does. I want to see how the fan base reacts. I want to see how we handle the occasion. Same thing with Arsenal. And we're not the Bayern. We're not the Bayern of the 10-2s 7 years ago. And you're not the Arsenal of those 10-2 7 years ago. The gap I still think maybe you could argue that we're the better side. I don't think we are at this moment, though. We have the striker, and that's
atmosphere at the Emirates. I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday when we played Porto. That atmosphere was incredible. We haven't seen that for a very, very long time. And I think if we can have that atmosphere in the quarterfinals and in the semi-finals, we could potentially make the finals. Really, because that atmosphere was incredible. We've not seen that.
Matt, when you speak about the atmosphere, though, wouldn't you say that was in the build-up to the game? Because I know during the game, your fans are nervous. I don't know if it was just the cameras, but they were going on to your fans. They all looked a bit nervous. You wouldn't sing. You heard the Ashburn Army, but you wouldn't sing as much. I think before the game, that feels good. But against a Bayern or Madrid or City that are better than a Porto, during the game, I think the nerves will increase if you play them teams at the Emirates. So you're going to need that.
The first half was quite nervous, and in the second half, we kind of sort of just grew louder and louder and louder, even as it got into the time. But that first half, was very nervy.
Two things I'd say about the Arsenal draw with Bayern. Like you said, it is a very big test of character to just see where you guys are. Obviously, you guys really put your players and manager on certain people, so it answers a lot of questions for you guys. Also, in terms of the fact that you guys got Real Madrid and Bernabeu second leg, it's heritage. Champions League, the storylines. The last time you guys went to the final was Henry 1-0 win against Bernabeu. That was an iconic win.
That's true.
If you have the opportunity to repeat that and then complete the mission, it could motivate the players and
in terms of controlling the narrative for Arsenal fans, in terms of ensuring that you're treated right, is go now and see what the Arteta outers are saying, what Standard FC is saying, what rivals are saying. Most of them are saying we're out, you're out, we're out, you're out, etc. Ask them why they think that, and then hold them to that level, because you can't be angry if you go out, if you say you're out because all these teams are better. And at the same time, do you get what I'm saying? So it's a case of you've got the hardest, in my opinion, you've got the hardest route to the final. Getting past this quarterfinal stage is an achievement. First year back after 7 years. Haven't even been to this stage for 15 years. First time this squad and manager have been at this point. It's for now. I almost feel like I don't like the word free hit. I think that's too easy because you are a big football club. It's not a free hit, but I think you can kind of go into these games with a lot less pressure on you, because everyone that thinks you're going to go out or doesn't like your manager or doesn't like these players or doesn't think you're good enough is literally saying you're not good enough to win. If I was Arteta, if I was Arsenal fans, I would be weaponizing that to take the pressure off you, because you can't be the underdogs and then still expected to go through. Those two things can't coexist at the same time. It's impossible. So
I also think
the Arsenal media is smart, they'll weaponize this and really help their team get motivated for this. That's what
I also think, though, I think Arsenal fans should be hoping Bayer Leverkusen drop points in the Bundesliga, because I think the longer it stays a double-digit lead for Bayer Leverkusen over Bayern Munich, focus shifts to the Champions League as the only thing they can win.
You know how I feel about Leverkusen.
I know how you feel about Leverkusen. But what I'm saying is the focus goes from the Bundesliga to the Champions League, the longer they stay double-digit points behind. So Arsenal
Terry,
better be hoping that Leverkusen drop points. As much as
You
a
made
fairy
it-
tale as it is.
you
they
made
should
a
be
good
hoping
point
they-
earlier, Terry. Yeah,
Yo.
and I've
Big
deep
up,
something you
Egal.
said. The 2 times I've seen my club win it as well. In 05, we had a Leverkusen team that had Roy Mackay, which was one of the best at the time, if anyone
Ballack?
remembers. No, Ballack was at Bayern at that time in 05.
Yeah.
And then we also had a Juve team that was probably top 3 in the world. Mourinho's Chelsea, then Milan, that team was just star-studded in the final. And then when we won it in 2019, we had a Barca team that I think were champions that season. We had a Bayern team that were champions. Okay, Spurs and Porto are anomalies, but I think you make a very good point, because I feel like the harder the route, it could kind of just raise the team. It could raise the level. Even Chelsea in 2012, you had the reigning champions in Barca that won the Champions League the season before, and then you also had a Bayern Munich team that one of the best in Europe at the time. So it can bring out the best. It can
at their own ground. At their own ground.
Yeah, at their own ground in the final. And you hadn't won it yet. And you hadn't won it yet. So.
The 2021 route, we had the Spanish champions, we had the Portuguese champions, we had Real Madrid, and then we had the English champions.
So
And
Atletico,
we were the
Porto,
worst team,
Real-
apart from maybe the Porto tie. I think we were the worst team.
Something sharpens something. Is it iron sharpens iron or whatever?
Yeah,
I don't
iron
know.
sharpens iron. Yeah,
And I think what can happen sometimes. Egal's with us now, but what do you make of the draw? Bayern Munich followed by Real Madrid or Manchester City, the hardest route possible. A lot of people writing you off. How do you see it, brother?
I'm not.
In order to beat the best, you have to be the best, right?
Exactly.
Sorry, in order to be the best, you have to beat the best, right? So let's bring it on. First of all, I wanted Bayern. That 8-10-2, every day we hear about it. We consistently hear about it. This is a new Arsenal. You're going to see that this is not the same old situation where we go to a Bayern Munich away and we struggle. They come to our house and they whoop our ass 10-2. That's not happening. I can tell you that for free. So all the people who are saying, oh, Bayern Munich, you should be scared, history, heritage, forget that. This Arsenal team is going to be facing a Bayern Munich team with no away fans in the second leg at our ground. Massive advantage to Arsenal. This is probably the best tie we could get. No away fans, we could fill the whole stadium, right? And second,
I'll ask you a question, yeah?
One second. Let me land. Let me finish my point.
Yeah, sorry, brother.
I wanted Bayern in the group stages because I wanted this Arsenal team tested versus some of the best teams. And you guys are making it seem like Bayern Munich, we're on the same level. You guys are making it seem like you're making it seem like Barcelona. They're not on our level. Dortmund, not on our level, in my opinion. Atletico Madrid is the worst team we could have faced, and luckily they're on the other side. And hopefully they don't reach the final. But yeah, everyone talking about Champions League, heritage, everything else. You want to know something? Porto, did they have when they won it? Did they have Champions League heritage? Did they?
Yes, because they won in the 80s.
Okay. Did their players were they unexperienced?
No. The same players. Yeah, you're right.
Did they have experienced manager? Did they have experienced players? Did they have a manager?
Mourinho. Oh no, actually, to be fair,
Didn't they win the UEFA Cup the year before?
Yes, they did. So Mourinho's first year, they won the UEFA Cup and the Taça de Portugal. Then they won the Portuguese league. They won the Portuguese league and the champs. They did.
Okay. All I'm saying is, even though we have a tougher tie, it's not out of the realm of possibility that this could favor us. Because then, when it comes down to it, we played the toughest teams, and we're playing teams that are more stylistically more suited to how we would play, rather than playing Atletico Madrid, who similar to Porto times 10. We're not playing, and I think Bayern are very open. I think Bayern Munich are an open team defensively, and we can get at their defense. And I'm not too scared of a Bayern Munich. Where Real Madrid and Man City in the second time in the semifinals, that's going to be extremely tough. But you want to know something? Let's get to the semifinals, because first of all, you guys are already doubting us versus Bayern Munich, and I love it.
No. I'm not doubting you. I think
I
said semi-finals for Arsenal weeks ago. I think you'll get to the semis, but the difference is, you've just said it, Egal. The difference between Madrid and City, they don't have to play well and they can still knock you out, especially Real Madrid. We see it with City. City were about 2 minutes away from going through the 2022 campaign. Real Madrid just flip it on its head, 2 goals in the last couple minutes. So that's the only dangerous thing. I agree with you. I think stylistically, Atletico are all wrong for you. But then don't just, I'm not saying you are personally, but don't undermine the Madrids, because you could play better than them over the 2 legs and they'll still find a way.
I'm not even, majority of this conversation was literally about the Bayern game. I think
you knocked them out.
I think people look at the 10-2s, they look at all those teams. This Bayern Munich team, how many players are even like players that you'd be fearful of. Harry Kane is probably their best player. We've seen him week in, week out in derbies for years. I think we have a mental edge over Harry Kane. We win this tie because of that mental edge over Harry Kane.
Wait, Steven Egal.
Hang on. Hasn't he got record goals against you? What do you mean you got a mental edge over him?
He can have record goals against us, but he barely beats
us. No, you haven't got a mental edge over him. He scores against you regularly. You haven't got a mental edge over him.
He doesn't win
whatsoever.
I get where Egal's coming from. I do. Yeah. I look at it this way. Bayern Munich are going to have a new manager in the summer, and it's going to be a better manager than they've got now. And this group of players they have, most of them will stay. They'll add to it. And I think Bayern Munich will be a very different animal next season compared to now. If you're going to get Bayern Munich in the Champions League, you want them this season. You want them now. Because I think in a year's time, with a more progressive manager, a better manager, this group of players is ridiculous. They're just not playing a brand of football that I think suits them and brings the best out of them. That doesn't mean Arsenal are guaranteed to go through, because you're still going up against one of the best teams in the world with a plethora of talent from top to bottom and inside out. But I think this idea of just writing Arsenal off and saying they have no chance is crazy. However, where there is a little bit of pressure on Arsenal, I would say in this game, is you don't want to be getting knocked out by Harry Kane goals, because that's where that's going to hurt. Like, that's going to hurt if that happens.
Why don't they have away fans? This is the first time I've heard it.
They threw fireworks, apparently.
Okay, so here's what happened. The first leg against Lazio, you saw at the Saudi Olympico, they had the Bayern away fans, and they threw some fireworks on the field, and UEFA were like, all right, suck on that, and they said no away fans for the next week.
Can I just quickly say something as well?
I'll come back to you in a second.
Title race for the Premier League well interesting, because surely this means City and Arsenal, not at a disadvantage as such, but they're definitely not the favourites anymore, in my opinion, because Liverpool are obviously in the Europa League and have got like an easier run in that, so they can sort of rest.
Did you see the team Klopp played yesterday? He's a madman. He's a madman in Europa League. He played a full strength team.
I disagree, Matt.
Speaking of the Europa, are you doing a reaction?
No,
no,
I'm live. I'm live with. Now, do you know what it is? Because I'm live with Sam and Staffy at 1:30 today. We've had to do it earlier because of their commitments with Ramadan and everything else. So they're just not going to be the time. But it's a case of Liverpool will play a strong team in that, because Klopp wants to win everything before he leaves. So I don't think where you got an advantage, I think, over Liverpool is that you're predominantly going to, both you and City will predominantly be playing before them on European weeks, because they'll be on the Sunday, and you guys will have Saturday games. So you have the opportunity. I also think as well, playing big games midweek and big games at weekends, I think it's good for a team. I think that what you'll go through as a club, and I know that a young fan like you hasn't experienced this yet in your life, you won't remember it, but you'll have a big game at the weekend in the Premier League. Say you win, lose, draw, doesn't really matter. Your mind then goes straight to the Champions League, but it also does for your players. So what they're not doing is spending a whole week dwelling on the past result and the pressure building up to the new one, because you're focusing on Europe. By the time that's done and dusted and you've all settled down, suddenly, oh God, we've got a game in 2 days. And I think it helps. I think it really helps the players focus on winning, because you don't have any time to dwell on things and stress about things. So yeah, I don't think this changes anything about the race in the Premier League at all, in my humble opinion. Although what you might find is, I don't know when the quarterfinals of City is going to be. It'd be interesting to see what games you've got sandwiched between each other. That'll be interesting.
Terry, I'm happy you mentioned that, because I hate this notion, we play once a week, we get more rest. There's one key word, momentum. And I hate this notion that, the more games you play increases injuries. You can get injuries anyway. You can get injuries in training. You can get them, and you can get them in a Premier League game. So I just feel like it's good to play every 3 games, especially if you're every 3 days, especially if you're a top club, because the more you win, it increases that winning mentality. I hate when it's not happened for a long time for my club. I used to hate playing once a week. I used to hate it. And plus, you support your club, so you want to see them as much as possible. It's as simple as that.
And also with doing that, you find that you're playing more fringe players, rotation players, and they're proving themselves more as a team.
No, I agree. It's one of the reasons last year I said to Arsenal fans that did the whole bigger fist to fry thing. It's wrong, because then what you have is so I know you've got no one at Saliba's level to replace him. But when Saliba went out, you had a huge amount of players that hadn't really kicked the ball for months. So they come in flat-footed. They don't come in warm. They come in a little bit undercooked in terms of match fitness.
Right.
So it's good to have multiple games because it keeps everybody playing, everybody rotating. And I'm going to go to these super chats here, guys. First one says, "Wait, Bayern won't have any away fans." Yes, as we put out. Egal, please stop. You make our fan base look worse. Doesn't, man.
Can I
Just
say
his
on the
opinion.
fans, right?
Just his opinion.
Does that mean we can field all 60,000 of our capacity as Arsenal fans, or
That
do we
that
have to
depends
have
what UEFA say.
a wasteland empty?
Yeah, UEFA.
UEFA's rules depends what they say.
Could there still be Bayern Munich fans in the home end? Or
I mean, what you might be able to do is downfill. So the whatever section they'd have had, say 10,000 fans, you might be able to put your fans in that away section, then they'll just be like empty seats up near the top. That's what I would do if I was Arsenal, so that everyone around the pitch is a gooner. Can't beat Porto at home. Humble yourself. Did he beat Porto 1-0?
We did.
Beat Porto 1-0 on the night. Liverpool, the winners from that draw, is what James Knight believes. Maybe.
I agree.
Okay.
They're facing tougher sides sandwiched in, but like we said earlier, and it's about the momentum. And if you're facing top sides every 3 days, then yeah, but I look at it through Liverpool, they could play their rotation players for some of these, depending on the Europa League draws, and bring out the big boys.
He's going full in. You saw that team yesterday. He's going full in Europa League. They were 5-1 up for the first leg. He played a near full strength team for that whole
But then
game.
you could say that he's done that. You could say that he'd done that, so for the second leg, he can rest his players.
But he didn't. He literally played a full strength team last night.
Do you know what annoyed me?
Players come off.
He chucked on Van Dijk the last 30 minutes. I was incensed. That just didn't need to happen. That didn't need to happen. Just let him rest for United at the weekend. That didn't need to happen.
Hey man, let Klopp do what he wants in his farewell tour.
He doesn't care. He's leaving. He's going to play who he wants.
Let's just get through the rest of these guys. This here says, thank you, Terry, for shutting down fans that say Arsenal haven't got a European trophy just because the name changed. I would take Barcelona or PSG. I mean, I didn't know the Intercity Fairs Cup was actually the UEFA Cup until I researched it. So it's just something I learned. As a Gooner, Wembley is our second home. I truly believe if we make the final, we win it. I personally think we're the fourth favorite. Well, the thing is, if you make the final, you probably are fourth or fifth favorites. But all the teams that are below you on that and next to you on the other side of the draw, if you make the final, you go into it pretty much as the favorites. Because I think most people, being honest, would put you above Ati, would put you above Dortmund, they'd probably put you in and around just above Barca in this particular moment in time. Maybe Ati, their manager, slightly ahead of you, but or similar. So if you make the final, you probably do go into. That's the one round you'd go into as the favorites, maybe like from now. Maybe.
You know what, Terry? If they make the final, like I said earlier, they've knocked out Bayern. They would knock out either Madrid or City. I think they will win the final if they get it. I think they deserve it. If you've knocked out two of the big heavyweights, they actually deserve to go and win the final, in my opinion.
If we win it,
that you guys are taking for granted. So
if we win it at Wembley, we've literally Arteta's plan this whole time when he first came in said is to win it in 3 years' time, or what was it, 4 years' time? He literally did say that, so it would literally be like a prophecy come to truth.
What I would say about Wembley, though,
with the other side of the draw is Dortmund, Atletico, PSG, Barcelona. This, in my opinion, is the easiest route possible for Mbappe and PSG to make the final. Now, if you was to make the final, I predict that PSG will make the final off that bracket. But if you guys was to make the final against PSG, knowing it's Mbappe's last game at PSG, knowing how much he takes pride in stepping up in big moments, he's lost in a final before. Do you really think there's anyone in your team that can step up and rise to the occasion the way Mbappe will?
Saliba.
I'm looking at the rest of their team, and I'm saying he has a lot of good players, but no real great players, game changers besides himself.
I mean, they got Donnarumma, who's been in top form this season. Very, very good. A mistake here and there. They've got Beraldo, Lucas Hernandez, who's the top center back. Beraldo's been a revelation since they bought him.
Listen, I seen the same. One second, we're talking about the same Newcastle. We seen the same team go to Newcastle and lose 4-0. So I'm not
but
really
that's because we
concerned.
play way different to you guys, though.
But Egal, you could also argue that you're very confident on your Champions League campaign, but you guys have failed to make a Europa League final under Arteta. you've added a Declan Rice and a Havertz, but are they really moving the needle to the point where you can't win a Europa League when all of a sudden you can win a Champions League now?
Yeah.
So you got.
I'm not saying we're going to win it. I'm just saying.
Just because I've got to shoot in a minute. Can I finish these super chats, guys? Sorry to butt in. As a Gooner, 1% chance, 99% faith is what Ahmed says. Bayern will have no fans at the Emirates. Banned. Absolutely right, James. Should be a good side. Looking forward to that revenge. Yeah, I mean that's the element for Arsenal fans. To be able to win that and sort of put those demons to bed would be mad. Even if Arsenal do find a way past Bayern, the narrative will shift to, but this is a bad Bayern team. They aren't even winning the Bundesliga. Of course,
I'm glad that guy brought that up because that will definitely be brought up.
Let me just get through these super chats, bro, because I've got to shoot in a minute. Beat Bayern, beat Real Madrid, then beat PSG in the final. It's written in the stars, is what Halftime Hook says. Even if Arsenal do find a way past Bayern, sorry, I've already done that one there. Thank you, bro. It's a great point. Real Madrid versus PSG final. Odds Mbappe injured for the final. That's a great point. Yeah, he's joined. Yeah, that would be a great final. I'm happy we don't have Madrid, City, or Atletico because City and Madrid would smoke us, and Atletico would park the bus. I mean, you've got them in the semis if you get through anyway, bro. So you kind of have got them to a degree. Klopp didn't play full strength. Rested Diaz, Maka, VVD on the bench. Salah, Soboslai needed minutes. No Ali, Jota, Jones, Konate, Matip, full strength. Shut up. What we mean by full strength? It was. I mean, you could have just played those. You could have played loads of kids last night. Is what we're saying. No one's saying it's your best team, but it was about as strong as you would put out there with a few players on the bench being rested. First point I'd like to make is to say hats off to your Liverpool team. Well, last night, and I wanted this draw for us, Arsenal, but I will say Kane is dangerous. He's definitely dangerous. I'm a Liverpool fan. Arsenal will beat Bayern Munich. Look, I want to thank everyone who's tuned in today. We are live at 1:30, me, Staffy, and Hussam, so make sure you're tuning in then. Until next time, people, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again very, very soon.